to Unpack Your Life. I'm Jane Bond, your host and identity strategist. This is the show where we go past the surface, past the performance, and into the real work. Have you ever looked at your life and thought, how did I get here? Not because your life fell apart, but because somewhere along the way, you disappeared. I know that feeling oh too well. I spent years building a life that looked successful while quietly losing the person I was underneath it. Until one day, I realized I had a choice. Keep protecting the life I had built or burn down the identity that was keeping me trapped. I chose the fire. That's why I created Unpack Your Life. This isn't a podcast about fixing your life. It's about uncovering the person who's been there all along. I'm Jane Bond, and let's unpack your life. Hey everybody, I want to welcome you to another Unpack Your Life. I'm Jane Bond, your host and your identity strategist. This is the show where we go past the surface, past the performance, and into the real work. And today, this is a masterclass on unpacking your life. My guest is very special. I've known him for, I would say, maybe 25 years or more. We have been in touch with each other relatively on a regular basis, most of the time, seeing each other at different times in life. But the journey has always been a lovely journey, working with him and speaking with him at any given time. My guest is Mr. Keith Major. He is a New York City native, has over 30 years of experience as one of the industry's most respected commercial and portrait photographers. His passion for visual art began in his preteen years, taking after-school programs at the Brooklyn Museum of Art and Pratt Institute, leading him to earn a BFA from the Rochester Institute of Technology. Most of you will probably know it by RIT. Throughout his career, Keith has built a sterling reputation for capturing authentic beauty across music, fashion, portraiture, and let me tell you guys, he has a hell of a roster. It includes major brands like Sony, Colgate, Essence, Cosmopolitan, as well as iconic subjects, including, of course, Beyonce, Alicia Keys, Kevin Hart, Jeff Koons, Zendaya. Oh my God, I can just go on. You name it, he's been there. And we have looked at his work and admired his work for many, many years. I'd like to welcome my guest, Mr. Keith Major. Hey, Keith, what's going on, baby?
Hey, Dane, how you doing? That was one heck of an introduction there.
Because you deserve it, babe. You are like the man when it comes to taking those pictures up there in New York City.
Thank you for all the love. Thank you so much.
Absolutely. Keith, you know, I sent you a group of questions and some of your answers really blew me away. And they were some of the most authentic answers that I've had read since the beginning of this show, Unpack Your Life. And I want to open with the identity behind the master, because you are definitely one of the masters. You have a long-standing career in photography, and I met you, I don't know, 20, 25 years ago with my great friend, John Jones, rest in peace. And we had many, many good times and many, many good shoots with some great people like the illustrious Sam Fine we were talking about. So, Keith, when people see your work, they see images of beauty, artistry. But before we talk about what you created, I want to talk about who created it. Who did you become along the way, Keith?
Wow, who did I become along the way?
Absolutely.
Oh my gosh, that's a question. I think I began to realize that, and this is sort of like a realization, because sometimes you're sort of growing and expanding what is the core of your personality. And I began to realize that one of the gifts that I had was that I saw people at their best. And this is something that happened for me not because of the camera. It was sort of a natural God-given gift that I would literally look at people and see their beauty, all the time, all day, every day. I mean, that's how I see people. And so I realized that a lot of what was happening was I was translating that gift, through photography. And it's funny because I've had people that I've had a discussion with just randomly. I remember once having a discussion with somebody on the street and they're like, well, what about that person? And they point to that person as if, what about that person? And I'm like, you want me to say that they're unattractive and I don't see that. I'm sorry,
Right.
And so it's become, and it's funny, you're always becoming something else. And what I mean by that is you're always growing.
You're always evolving.
You're
Absolutely.
always evolving. It's the way of nature, from the seed to a young plant, to a full-blown tree, to sprouting fruit, to losing your leaves and starting all over again, or dying and going into the soil. Whatever the case may be, there's always
Okay.
whatever there is, there's always that evolution. And I'm finding lately that, being a senior photographer, having done this for so long, that my latest passion has become when I teach. I've been an adjunct professor at the New School, Parsons School of Design, for a few years now, and I find that that's been my latest passion. As much as I still shoot and love to shoot, I'm finding that I'm getting most excited about the young photographers and teaching and conversing with them and communing with them, that has become the more exciting thing in my life. So I guess I'm becoming an image making sage and a mentor to the young creatives coming up. That's where it's.
I think people like ourselves, that's what we do. We evolve into these teachers also, because we want to give the gift that we have that keeps giving. And you said something really poignant there. You said, we're these seeds that we continuously grow. And I always say, I can't remember where I read it. It might have been Robin Sharma. And he said, the first year we sleep, the second year, we creep, and the third year we just leap. And those are the seeds that we plant. And maybe it's 20 years we start leaping. But once we're planting those seeds, they start growing underneath, because the roots, they grow out. And then they start going up. And I think you passing what you're not, the level of your knowledge on to young people is amazing. Oh, I really appreciate that answer. Thank you.
You're welcome.
Yeah. I just think about the days that I spent and the time I spent at your studio with some of my clients, because a lot of people don't know I was an entertainment manager at one point.
Right. Yeah. We had some great shoots.
Yeah. And just like watching your artistry and watching you work, and then seeing the final product. I mean, I was even one of your objects, your subjects at one point, and just seeing the artistry. And even when I look back at those pictures, I'm like, wow, damn, I didn't do too bad. I wasn't, I wasn't a bad subject. But it's also,
not even close.
It's like capturing that image and people seeing it and going, wow, that's me. That's really me, And I always tell people, even when they're shooting me as a friend with their, iPhone, I go, capture the person that you know. Capture my personality. When you see me, and I'm not even a photographer or anything near that, but I know that you need to capture the person that you see and know. When I'm laughing, when I'm speaking.
Yeah.
I don't know if you utilize that technique at times, because I know.
I mean, for me, it's interesting because it becomes very, even though there's a big spiritual connection,
okay.
I think it's the spiritual connection that allows me to see the beauty. But when I'm doing it, I really break it down to kind of like the most basic visual things, and sort of like a photo science mathematics. So there's certain lenses that you choose for certain looks, and there's certain lights and things that affect what it looks like. And so I certainly employ a lot of the photo science to the math, and I also employ, composition and things learned and learned through experience, but then also learned in school. So sometimes it's very technical and academic, but I think even in that, the spirit stuff comes through.
I'm sure, just watching people move, I'm sure.
Right. But sometimes, it's that. It's funny that you say watching people move, because very often what's happening on set is I'm actually staring, if you will, at the person, and I'm noticing mannerisms, and I tend to photograph the things that I found interesting, or I might even direct you, and you think that I'm directing you, but I'm actually asking you to do something I saw you do that I think will work on camera.
Okay, that's one of the secrets, guys. He's
Yeah,
watching you.
watching, yeah, watching,
Absolutely.
paying attention. So, you
Yeah.
know,
I guess you're capturing their artistry also because most of the people you shoot are artists, you know.
yes, you can see on the wall behind me my
I know.
wall that I started during COVID when we were all doing this online thing, and
I see my Miss Jill Scott. Okay, she's like
yes,
a member. I
I actually
see
just went to a Jill Scott concert last week,
her. Wow.
and it
I
was interesting. It was invigorating. Like I didn't know I needed it. Like I actually
exactly.
like
Exactly.
he just sort of like set the spirit straight, which is really interesting. Like I don't know that I've ever had that experience at a concert where somebody just kind of gets you
Yeah,
alive,
Miss Scott is a
puts you
little
right.
bit different. Yeah, she's
Yeah.
a little different. I mean, I was very close to her record label when I was repping the brand new heavies. And when we
Oh,
went out
right.
to California, yeah, when we went out to California, I met one of the guys, A&R guys, and we became friends. And he came to Philly. Jill came to Philly. Of course, she's from Philly. Of course, I'm in
Mhm.
business at the time, and Deanna Williams and all of us, we're performing at a certain place. So Jill comes and she's doing a private concert for Crown Royal. So of course the name Crown Royal and
Mhm.
her. So we go to the concert afterwards, John, myself, and another friend. Crown Royal is not a drink for me, of course, but that's what was there, and we were having a good time. And after the show, she looked at the crowd as they were dispersing, and she said, "Now we're going to do the show, my Philly people. Lock the doors." I was like, oh my gosh, she's doing a private show for all of us now. It was so amazing. I mean,
Wow.
I was just like, wow. And she was just in Philly at the FIFA
Mhm.
celebration, her and the Roots. And I grew up down the street from Questlove. So I was just like on it, in it. I was like, oh my
Yeah,
gosh, Roots
wow.
are here, Kevin Hart, Will Smith, everybody was there.
All the
Jazzy,
Philly people.
all the Philly. I mean, Philly is so rich, when it comes to entertainment. We have some really
Yeah.
good people coming out of there. And then Deanna
I
Williams, who's a
uh,
DJ, who was a DJ and married to Kenny Gamble. I mean, actually, I'm interviewing her next week. She just brings the noise. They just do it up over Philly. So yeah, we have a huge history. So I love it. I love it. Yeah, Philly
wow.
was on and popping, as the kids say.
Yeah, yeah, I worked with Kevin Hart.
Yeah.
Yeah, actually, Kevin Hart's profile picture on his Instagram is my photo.
Oh, great. Of course it is. Of course it is.
Really, it's a cool one.
Yeah, he's definitely a Philly guy. And you know who else is from Philly that I just learned and went to elementary school with and didn't know it? Coleman Domingo.
I worked with Coleman.
He must be amazing.
He is amazing. I worked with him. I was during the time I was photo director at Ebony, and we did a series of covers, and Coleman was the first cover. We did
Wow.
Coleman, part of a men's cover series in June of, I think, 2023. Coleman Domingo, Shamik Moore, and gosh, I can't think of this third guy's name. It'll come to me. He was the guy that starred in They Cloned Tyrone.
Okay, I think you mean
He
Erica
was
Badu?
also in Star Wars.
Okay. No.
It'll come to me.
Yeah, yeah. I
I
mean, you
don't.
have worked with so many people, Keith.
Yeah.
I mean, that's a testament to your work, though. Absolutely a testament to your work. Guys, let me tell you something. You are really
Uh,
sitting here with, let me tell you, an icon. This man is amazing when it comes to
John
photography.
Boyega. That's who.
Oh, yes.
Well, thank you for the love. It's wild to you live in you live in your body. You wake up and you look in the mirror and you see that same person, and you know you. And for me, it's like there are times that I'm reminded of the icon part of the equation. I don't necessarily always feel it, but sometimes I do when I'm teaching, and I see it as a responsibility. And I didn't always see it that way. I think that I had a number of years where I certainly I lived a sex, drug, and rock and roll lifestyle, and I wasn't
No, we all
responsible.
did.
I was being an icon, but I was doing iconic work, but I wasn't necessarily the most iconic character. And I think now with a bit more maturity, I'm realizing what it means, and how you have to even if you're not carrying yourself in the best light, you want to speak to it in a way that helps somebody along their path so they don't necessarily make the same mistakes.
Yeah, I
But
think that
I do enjoy the journey though. It's nice to revel in the experience. It's really interesting too to get to a place where you've experienced so much that it's it's you sometimes just sit back and marvel at yourself even when it all happened. And marvel at the things that I can do because now I have more experience than ever before. So it's like I feel like I'm better at what made me an icon than I've ever been.
I mean, you're like, listen, you're the Peter Lindbergh of our times, okay? All of those guys, you've done that. You've been there, you've done that. You've shot some of the most iconic people on the planet right now. And listen, you don't have to feel it. You know it. Your identity, babe, you don't have to do an identity audit. You know who you are, you know where it came from. And that's the beauty of this show. I created a methodology called the 5-step method for unpacking your life and understanding who you are. And no, we don't. You don't have to do the audit. We know who you are. We know who you. We know, and you know who you are. Us speaking it. Sometimes they say you let the other people say that. We
Uh-huh.
are saying it because we know we are praising you. And when I say iconic, I know for a fact that you're iconic. I've
Thank you.
been there. I've watched you. I've seen the journey. I've went through the journey with you.
You
I'm
know what? You really did. There are some people, you being one of them, that go all the way back to I think we met when I was at 568 Broadway. I mean, I don't
Yes,
know if
we
you remember that
did.
studio, the long
Yes,
hallway
I
and the
do.
studio in the back.
And then we
Yeah,
went to the other studio.
yeah. And so that's yeah, that's the entire journey. That's really
Yes. I watched your journey I remember the day John told me about you. He said, "Girl, it's this guy, this photographer in New York, and he is just blowing up everything." And I was like, "Really? Let me see his work." He showed me the work. I was like, "Oh my God, that's beautiful." And I didn't even know, who I was at the time with doing just the modeling thing and,
Yeah.
and putting people on and going into entertainment. I mean, this is why I created this 5-step identity method and mythology, because sometimes you do have to play those records. You do have to audit yourself and understand where you came from. And I've had several identities. So when I look back at being an entertainment manager, that was just something that was in my heart at the time, and I went with it. And lo and behold, it blew itself up, and I loved every minute of it. And I've met people like you, other photographers like Nigel Barker, and we can go on, and the Sam Fines, and I mean, wow. But you always have been there. If I needed to call on somebody, you were right there. You always been impeccable. You've always been professional. And that's why your track record is so stellar and people keep returning. That's the service, that's the talent. And yeah, you deserve that icon, title. So,
Awesome.
who else would we give it to? I don't know too many photographers that are still around at that, some have passed, unfortunately.
Some have passed,
Yeah.
some people stop doing it. It's life is
You.
doing life,
But it's definitely you. It's
Yeah,
definitely
I never stopped because I enjoy doing it,
fantastic.
you know.
You said you have always been ever changing and adapting. When you look back, what parts of yourself have remained constant through all those changes, all the evolution?
Wow. I always return to discipline. I'm somebody that is going to practice, somebody that's going to do the routine. And even when I and I will pause. I'll give myself grace and give myself breaks, but I'll always return back to discipline. And I think that has been the constant. That
Fantastic.
I'm going to show up on time. I'm going to get up when I need to get up. Uh, I'm going to exercise when I need to. Eventually,
Yeah.
you know, I'm going to, I'm going to do those things, and I think that's been the constant. The other constant has been that I love the arts,
Mm.
and I know that I'm always appreciative of the things that I enjoy in the arts. And
And you're so committed.
I'm consistent. Yeah. And I'm consistent in fortunately I don't dwell too much in the negative when it comes to creativity in the arts. I'm fortunate that I have a sort of like knee jerk or natural reaction to where when there's something that doesn't appeal to me,
Mm.
I don't dwell on it. I don't study it. It's as if it's invisible. And
Wow.
so I find that because I believe in this thing that I call creative karma. And what it is you you will the level to which you criticize something
Mm.
will meet you in your own work.
Wow.
And I've seen it happen, and I've had it happen to me, and I've seen it happen, and I fear it. And so, but fortunately, I don't dwell in the negative. I tend to gravitate to the things that I'm impressed with,
Mm.
gravitate to the things that I like. I have a story about that because I didn't know that I was doing that.
You always
And
had such a peace about you, though, like a peacefulness. And that's I was always like, wow, he's just so
oh
cool.
yeah, that piece has
Yeah.
been forged through fire. I mean, I've had awful things happen in my life that have sort of like structured me in a way to like understand that okay, controlling my emotions and being calm and having faith as a grounding mechanism is something that I've just adopted through the fire, really.
All right, through the
Yeah,
fire.
yeah, through the fire. I don't want to put a damper on the interview.
Oh, you're not putting a damper on it. Don't worry.
But I lost my father at a very young age,
Sorry about that.
and my father was somebody who was quick to anger, volatile, but
Mm.
a great dad though. Don't let me get it wrong. Like he was
Absolutely.
really a really amazing father who, for the time that he was here, really did a great job with us, my brother and my sister. But I also saw through him that sometimes carrying that weight so heavy isn't always a choice. But
Absolutely.
then I also it might have been a part of my personality because I do remember him once looking at me and saying, "You really love life, don't you?" And I remember thinking like, "Well, yeah, of course. Like, why wouldn't I? Of course, when you're a child, it's always lovely.
Exploring everything.
At least
Everything's
mine
beautiful.
was. Most fortunately,
I mean, some people inherit those identities from their parents and all of that heavy weight that they carry
right,
that wasn't
right,
theirs to carry, you know.
right, yeah. And I see that, and but I found so I definitely lean into the piece of things, and
Yeah,
I've always believed, and it's been reinforced by life's living and and lessons learned. But I have always believed that I was responsible for my joy. I was responsible for my happiness. I was responsible for me.
fantastic. That
And
I knew
and
it.
I always also believed of my worth and worthiness. And so I never felt less than if I were with a celebrity. I never felt less than if I were with somebody extremely wealthy. I always felt like I belonged just because.
I love it. Listen, just because also your ancestors that, carry that you stood on their shoulders, you better just belong. You
You
know,
know what? And the ancestors are a big, big part of it.
absolutely. I
You
call on them
know,
all the time.
yeah, big part of it. I mean, I was raised in a. It's funny though because when I think about the way I was raised in such a proud Black household, that
Yes.
I still have a hard time believing that a personality like a Clarence Thomas would even exist.
You know what? I have to agree with you. I talked to
Because it's just like,
people like yourself that, have walked the walk and understand that, yes, when you walk through a room, you definitely should know that you belong there because of the ancestors, because of these people shoulders that we stand on. And those shoulders are very, very strong, because there's a lot of us walking through the doors that feel like we belong there. If you didn't belong there, you wouldn't be walking through the door. And I always tell people, confidence doesn't work by itself. It comes with self-faith. And we're not talking about the faith that you find in church. We're talking about the faith that you develop as you go through your journey. And I think someone like your navigation has been through a different type of lens, even though you just shared that story with us. You understood that you had to find your own peace, and you knew you had to, you know, get your own joy, and it wasn't anybody else's responsibility. That's a huge responsibility for a young man to even take on and say, this is what's going to happen. Okay.
mhm,
I see
mhm.
what's happening over here, and I'm not going to carry this with me into my journey. I mean, that's an identity to be reckoned with. And that's what this story, that's what this
Yeah.
show is
I
about.
mean, also, I mean, I grew up in New York City in the 70s. It was
Yeah.
volatile. So I, there was that too. It's sort of like, yeah, so you get forged by the fire real quick.
Absolutely. I love that. Your
And it's
story
funny,
is so dynamic. Yes.
because when I went to Lagos, Nigeria in particular is quite wild. And I'm like,
Yes.
oh, I know this feeling. I know this energy. This is like
Oh,
New York in the 70s. I know this energy.
it felt very familiar.
Yeah, and it's funny because my daughter went for a conference maybe a few years after I went. And I said, "Oh, it reminded me of New York." She goes, "No, it didn't remind me of New York at all." And I'm like, "Oh yeah, that's right. You're much younger than me." My
Absolutely.
daughter being born in 91, it's like you don't know the New York that I knew. So
Oh my God, 91. What is that?
I
Young
have
people
a
being born.
35-year-old daughter,
Wow.
married and
When
everything.
you think about 91, I mean, 91, I was partying in New York City.
91. You know what? At 91, I was on a mission. I mean, married, but I was really very focused.
Right?
I probably did more. I did my biggest amount of partying happened probably between the age of 45 and 55.
You know what, Keith? It's
That's
so
probably when
funny
I
you say
partied
that.
the most.
I tell everybody, I said, life really began at like the 42 to the 58 mark. And
Yeah.
and then you start calming down. I mean, because you're not the same person you were when you were 42, you're not the same person when you were 32. And then when you get to the 50 mark, you're like, wait a minute.
Yeah.
Did you say to me? Well, you
Yeah.
start really learning who you are, and hopefully you're
Right.
authentic with it, because certain things don't sit so well with you, and you're like, wait a minute, you're disturbing my peace. Don't bring your chaos
Mhm.
over here to disturb my peace. But that's how it happens. As we get older, we really come into our own, and we just see life, through different lenses. And you have
Mhm.
to just say, wait a second here, that doesn't work. And you having a 35-year-old child, I mean, daughter, you're like, wow. You look back on those times and what, time really flies.
It does. Yes, it does.
Time really flies. Do you believe creativity reveals who we are, or do you believe we create ourselves through our creativity? I think you kind of answered that at one point
I think it's
too.
both. I mean,
Okay.
it's certainly my creativity certainly has revealed who I am in many ways.
100%. Yes.
But then there are times where the revelation comes after the fact. Like you create something, or you're in, particularly in what I do, because it can be so community based, you start
Mhm.
to realize things about yourself that you didn't know, or you take on and adopt new, flavors and energies because of the company that you're keeping, because of the creativity. It's a very 360 thing. It's yeah, you're revealing yourself and it's revealing itself to you.
Have you maintained a lot of the relationships from the beginning of your career to now?
It's never a lot because people come and go.
Right.
It's always a handful. But yes. And so, June Ambrose, yes.
Yes, of
Sam
course.
Fine, yes.
Yes, of course.
Chuck Amos, yes. Marvet Brito, yes. And I'm sorry if I'm forgetting anyone. Oh, Carlton Jones,
Okay.
yes. Carlton being a designer, former stylist. And what happens is, I think the best way to describe it is what I heard Issa Rae say so eloquently. She said that you grow laterally with your people. And so I think to a day, I think 2024, I shot a Colgate beauty campaign.
Mm.
They had some beauty projects for oral beauty products. And Sam Fine was on the set and Chuck Amos was on the set, and I asked for them to be on set. And these are people that I go way back with,
Way
to,
back.
working, on Broadway after work in the evenings, after my job was done, I'd be testing with them,
Yes.
and we grew together to work, on projects together. So
Yeah,
yeah.
that's a wonderful journey, I'm sure. I mean, like I know all the names and have worked with some of them. I mean, I watched June Ambrose grow like, wow. And she's still growing. She doesn't look any older either. I'm like, we age
No,
back.
I just posted a photograph of her today on the Instagram stories, and she doesn't look much different at all. And
At all.
what I find exciting about June is one of the few personalities that I feel like social media caught up to her, because she was always the person that she was on social media.
Yes.
So then when it happened, she was just like, she was able to swim because it was just, she was already in that ocean, It was almost like you'd have a day with June, and it was like, it's like social media is the outlet for a personality that was always there. So
Absolutely. Well, you stated that well.
yeah.
Did catch up to her because she's always been iconic with her style and who she is. And
Yeah, she was always fun on set and bubbly and quick-witted and just like gregarious and vivacious, and so
she is that girl, right?
that's who she is, It's
Yeah,
not
I
a
love
so
her.
it
I do.
works.
And another person, I remember talking to you about Zendaya years ago. And you said to me, you said, one thing I realized that she's a really smart girl, Jane. And
Yeah.
I'll never forget you telling me that. This was like 15 years ago.
Yep.
And then all of a sudden, boom.
Boom.
Right? Boom. And then I think about law. I think about,
I've forgotten that I did one of his early jobs.
Wow.
He reminded me.
Wow.
It was with K. Michelle, and he, and I think
Hey, Michelle, I haven't heard that name in a long time.
Yeah, I think she's just starting to resurge, because I think she's on one of the Housewives shows. I think she's on one of the Atlanta Housewives.
Okay.
It's You
might be right. You might be right. That name.
I think it's brand new. Like maybe it happened yesterday. But yeah, but I, and he reminded me, he's like, I did one of my first jobs with you, and I wanted to thank you because, what it is was law was Law Roach then.
Thank you.
Right. And I think when you're that personality starting out, you're not always given grace. You're not always being welcomed.
Right.
And
he has a very strong personality. He's very strongly opinionated. Yeah. But, again, he is who he is. And the thing I love about Law, I mean, I don't know him personally, is that his identity states exactly what it is. Yesterday, I think it was yesterday, the other day, I heard him say, I am the Zendaya of this industry. I went, you better talk. I said, you better work. I am the star. He said, what other, stylist is world renowned at this time? He said, I am the Zendaya of my industry. I said, you better talk about it. And that is like stating exactly who you believe you are. And that's what
he was unapologetically himself. And
100%.
And I remember that I could tell that he
performance. That's for sure.
And I could tell that he appreciated that I was 100% on board with him, allowing him to be himself.
Love it.
And respecting his part in what we were photographing together and what we were doing. And I'd forgotten even that I'd worked with him. He reminded me when when I was with Ebony, we were doing a series called Beautiful Black Homes, and we went to his home to photograph him, and that's when he reminded me
Wow.
that we had worked together. And then I remembered, oh, that's right,
Wow.
that's right, because again, being in the moment, I never made him feel like I just made him feel comfortable.
And that's, listen, not everybody has that talent.
And I could tell when he walked in, like, is this person going to give me a hard time? Because,
Right.
He was then, because, pushing gender the way he did then was new.
Yes.
When he was new and I worked with him, but I didn't,
Wow.
I didn't really care. Like, my thing is, like, I don't, it's not my business, and it doesn't matter to me what your gender is and your sexuality is.
I always tell people, get out of their bedrooms. Why are you in their bedroom?
It
Why does that matter to you?
only matters if I'm sleeping with you.
Exactly. And not only that, my two nephews, I always tell them, listen, you being gay is a very short conversation. After that, what else? What else do we have? So anybody that wants to judge you, you need to just move away from them. Don't even negotiate who you are.
It's useless, and I'm all for elevating.
Absolutely. It's called
pray that we elevate socially. My God,
yeah, and I always tell people,
and the racism and the misogyny and the pedophilia.
100%. Get out of their bedrooms. That's all I tell you. Why are you in their bedroom? Why do you even care? But anyway, we're going to move on from that. Because I'm sorry, I can go so many different places because I have quite a few people in my family that I love dearly, and I always have told them from young ages, that is a very short conversation. So don't entertain it. You don't have to explain yourself to anyone, as long as you know who you are. Period. There is a difference between being driven and being defined by achievement, Keith. How have you protected yourself from becoming only the work you produce?
The first thing that comes to mind is I remember when the rent got insane at the studio that I was at.
Oh, I can imagine.
And I wasn't doing, because print media changed, so I wasn't doing the kinds of numbers in print advertising that I used to do that allowed me to stay in that studio. And I remember one of my colleagues, sort of like a business management, or she wanted to be a business manager, was coming up with all these ideas on how I could stay in the studio and that it was integral to my business. She was like, you can take on a roommate or take on another business, or you need to section off your bedroom and make that another room for somebody else. And I'm like, no, I don't want to do any of that.
Oh, no.
And I was like, I think that I'm just going to leave the studio. And she goes, you can't do that. It'll be a disaster. And I said to her, I am not the studio. Like, this is where I've lived. This is where I've taken photographs. I've enjoyed this time here, but I am bigger than this piece of property that I don't own.
I love it.
And also I said, why am I jumping through hoops to continue to pay rent?
Right.
Now, if I owned it, that'd be different. But I'm paying a landlord, and this does not define me. And so I think that
was definitely an identity moment.
Yeah. And so I think that creativity is an ever evolving thing,
100%.
And people are going to identify with what works for them, but it's not the whole story. And the story is ever changing and ever evolving. And so that's always been my compass. And I think that I've been fresh enough. Is that the word? I think I've been clear enough and present living enough to not get too weighted down by the identity of whatever is going on with me vis-a-vis my work.
Right. Because the work speaks for itself.
Yeah. And it's such a journey. Like, for instance, I remember going to the Picasso retrospective at the MoMA in 1980. So in 1980, that means in 1980, I'm like 18 years old, maybe.
Absolutely.
Yeah, I was born in 62, so I would be 18.
Okay.
So, and I remember the first piece I saw was a charcoal drawing of a torso that he had done. And the draftsmanship was impeccable. It
Wow.
looked perfect. It looked like the thing was breathing.
Wow.
And on the opposite wall, at least in my mind's eye, it might have been a whole nother room, but on the opposite wall, I think, was the huge abstract painting of Guernica. And it was at that moment that I saw, it was almost like a life flashed before my eyes. Here's a man that I only knew as an abstract artist who had another life as a perfect draftsperson. So
Wow.
that meant that we know Picasso for the abstract.
Right. And the blue and a couple
he had a whole journey of perfect drawing and painting. And it was then that I realized that this whole thing can very often be a marathon.
100%.
And the photographer that I was then is not necessarily the photographer that I am now. Like, behind me sit a lot of photographs that I took a while ago, most of them on film.
Right.
And a lot of it is that, and they're on the wall right now because a lot of it is from the film days.
Love it.
And, and those prints used to live in my portfolio, and now it's just, well, I've had extras. I just tape them to a wall behind,
Right. This is my work.
Yeah, and it's just a fun thing, to play with. But, I don't.
Digital world changed you.
Huh?
How has the digital world changed you?
The digital world, in the end, the digital world allowed me to. It allowed me to blossom because of my foundation in analog.
Wow.
That's what the digital world did for me. The digital world also challenged me to be creative and think outside the box. Yeah, it actually allowed me to see other sides of myself, to appreciate resilience, to appreciate knowledge, to appreciate foundations, and to appreciate change.
Yes.
One of the greatest things that happened for me was at a time where I was questioning the digital space. An older photographer said to me, what you have to do is you have to look at this new medium and what is this new medium like in your hands? And so when he said that, so for example, there's a thing in the digital world called a film curve, where you can apply a film curve.
Wow.
Now, that wasn't abstract to me because in college, we used to have to read the highlights, midtones, and shadows of the film on a machine called a densitometer and plot that reading on graph paper. And then what you would get when you plotted it on graph paper and you dotted the highlights and the shadows, you get this thing called a film curve. Wow. And there was sort of a prototype of what a good exposure looked like, and it was a curve. Now, digital photography elevated exposure to the point where you got this thing called a gamma 1 response. So if you were to plot it on a graph, it would be a straight line because digital had the ability to give you perfect exposure.
Interesting. Look, I'm sitting here like I know exactly what you're talking about.
Right. So, yeah, no, I'm talking science, photo science now. So the thing is that if you want your digital to look like film, people would began adding curves. And I knew what a curve was from the analog world, from like actually physical film.
So going in that direction into the film part?
I actually directed a couple of a handful of music videos.
Wow, okay.
Not big ones, but yeah. And I directed a I did direct sort of like a biographical commercial for BET, for L'Oreal, that aired on BET. So I actually have done it and can do it.
Fantastic.
Yeah, it's something that's become necessary. Just like digital became necessary, doing videos become necessary. So you
Wow.
can't ignore it.
I know they're all talking about making these verticals. I hear this all the time. I have no idea what that means.
You know what? It sounds, it's funny. It sounds, corporate speak has a way of making things sound so, almost out of reach.
Yes.
But
not to these young kids.
But actually, only the vertical is just making it cell phone friendly.
Wow.
It's turning the horizontal to traditional horizontal landscape nature of motion picture vertically. That's all it is.
Unbelievable. You would think, for me being a layman, I'm thinking, wow, could I ever do
Because it sounds like that, because it, especially when you hear it coming, you're in a corporate meeting and they're using all that jargon, and then they say verticals, and you're just like, oh, okay, can I keep up? And it's so, really not that serious,
Everything is moving so fast. You wonder if you can keep up.
Right, yeah.
And sometimes it drives you crazy. I mean, even with the podcast. I mean, I was doing podcasts. When did I do your podcast? That was 10 years ago, I think, when I did the first podcast with you. I was doing podcasts before people were doing podcasts.
Right.
And I think back on that. I remember this one PR person said to me, so what are you getting out of that podcast, Jane? What is it? What's happening with it? And at that point, I was like, maybe she's right. Maybe I shouldn't be doing podcasts. And I think about that all the time. I said, never listen to anyone. Follow yourself.
It's funny. It's funny because
you are, Jane.
I saw this photograph the other day. It's funny how these things happen. If you really pay attention, the signs are always there. I saw a photograph I did the other day, rare photograph I did of MC Light. It was at backstage at Power 100 for Ebony.
Right.
And I said to her, I go way back with you. She goes, yeah. And I reminded her of when she was going to start a modeling agency. And she came to see me. We had a meeting and she had a couple of models. And she said, you know what? She's like, that's one of my regrets, is that I listened to someone in the industry talk me out of doing it.
Absolutely. That's the worst.
And I wish I had never listened to them.
And then what I hate when someone says, well, it wasn't meant. Well, how do you know it wasn't meant? I shouldn't have listened to you. I should have kept.
Yeah.
I was really,
yeah.
My gut told me.
Stubborn in that place. I've been stubborn in that place. I've always been.
That's beautiful.
Pretty you knew who you about what I was going to do. Yeah. And I've had many instances where people try to talk me out of it. I think one of the first.
Yes.
Yeah. I had a situation once where I was just simply buying chemicals to develop film. And the guy, and it was when I was going to Pratt Institute as an elementary school kid, after school program. And I'm buying the chemical, and the man in the store goes, what are you doing? And I might have been 12. He's like, what are you doing? He's like, why are you bothering with the darkroom? You should be out playing.
Oh my God.
And I'm like, whatever, give me my chemicals.
Okay.
I'm going to the darkroom.
Listen, I absolutely love.
And then it's funny because you just asked me about the, the film and motion picture and stuff. And at a time where things were changing, I took a position as a TA at ICP, International Center for Photography.
Yes.
And it wasn't paying. I was a darkroom tech. And I remember my significant other at the time was saying, you shouldn't be doing that. You should be teaching. You should be, you should be getting paid for it. I'm like, whatever. I didn't listen to her.
It's that.
And one of my friends was there and he came by. I remember, not a friend, he was actually a colleague, and he came by to collect a check for something he had done for me. And I'm like, well, meet me at this place. And he goes, it looks like you're waiting here to die. And I'm just like, yeah, whatever. I didn't listen to them. I continued. I enjoyed the process. I met some great people there.
Yeah.
But more importantly, the free time that I donated allowed me to take motion picture and video classes for free at ICP.
Okay.
And had I not done that, I would not have been able to direct the commercials that I directed, nor would I have been when I was with Ebony, we were doing motion covers. So I was in lockstep with the videographers and the filmmakers, and I had the technical wherewithal to be a good director because I had taken those classes. And I was in the classes because I didn't listen to the people that said I should.
Exactly. That noise will kill your joy. And you have to be careful because those people are always around. They're usually not happy with who they are and what they're doing.
I'm
You know?
glad you brought that up, because one of the things that one of the first lessons I teach my students when I'm in class is listen to me. There are a plethora of professions in the arts. Even if you don't become a photographer, you might be a creative director. You might be this, you might be that. And I said to them, as a creative, there are always ups and downs. There are ups and downs in life in general, but as a creative person, there are lots of them. When you're down, first of all, I want you to understand that a lot of our down periods are not really downs. What they are is the fuel to help you get better and improve.
Absolutely. It's like failure. It depends how you handle it.
Right.
Never failure. It's a lesson.
Exactly.
And
then also
come back and be better.
Yep. You're so right. And the other thing is, seek advice from other creative professionals.
100%.
Do not talk to people that have what we might describe as a regular job or a 9-to-5, because they will tell you you're crazy. And
they will tell you to go get a job like them and get a paycheck.
Yeah. Sometimes I've even had my own lawyers, my own accountants say, you should consider blah, 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 blah. Like, no, like, so whenever, you've got to talk. So you always go to another creative person, because anyone outside the realm will talk you out of your career.
Yes, they will. They will. And they have. I mean, like I said, I'll never forget her saying that to me in Miami on a rooftop. And she asked me, and I said to myself, I went home and I started negotiating with my thoughts. And I said, and when I think in retrospect, I said to myself, damn it, I listened to her. And that's why I have never called her again.
Right.
And that's why I didn't hire her as my PR person. I said, you know what? I took the time to go and meet this person and listen to her. And look what, I missed this time period of my life when I came back. And here it is. I'm here again, full circle, doing Unpack Your Life. That's a part of it. And now I definitely know what I love. I love dealing with people. I love understanding people. I love.
Yeah, I mean, I saw it when you were in management. You were really good at it. Really
all in.
It's funny. Publicity is an interesting thing, because I have a colleague that's a publicist who I go way back, and I really do love and respect this colleague. But I also know that their weakest. Let me rephrase that. They have a hard time accepting things that are new and innovative.
Right.
And they will be quick to poo-poo them.
Yeah. Because
they were the last one of my clients to accept digital photography.
Because it's very linear with them. And see, life is not linear. Life is like photography. It's three-dimensional. Right.
And so you have to, particularly with publicists, you have to be very careful, because they're actually living in the what's hot right now.
Right. The trend.
What is the trend?
Yes. Absolutely.
What is the thing that's going to move the needle now?
Right.
And innovation lives in a place that, it's funny. People think of avant-garde as weird and strange. But the term avant-garde actually at its root means advance guard in front of the army.
That's right.
The term avant-garde actually means that which is innovative, forward, and new.
It's funny. I never heard anyone break it down.
Right.
And it's so true.
And so the reason why avant-garde has become known as that which is strange is because the thing that is very new seems strange.
Yes.
And so if you were actually in the avant-garde when you were doing your podcast when no one else was doing them.
Absolutely. Absolutely.
And sometimes you have to realize that not everybody's going to understand. In fact, here's the thing. with that particular publicist, I knew that they were struggling with digital, and I went to photograph the guy in Atlanta, the guy who did all the producing for TLC and a bunch of other big hits in Atlanta.
Okay.
Dallas Austin.
Yes, Dallas Austin. Wow.
And I went to Dallas Austin's house, and it was like the future. It was amazing.
Fantastic.
It was like high design. It's like when you go to Lenny Kravitz's house, you're like, oh my God.
Oh my God.
And I knew right then and there, I made a pact with myself. And I said, I'm not going to let this opportunity pass me by because of the client. Because very often what happens is you're doing what the client requires, which isn't always your aesthetic.
Exactly.
And I said, this time I'm going to lean in 100%,
absolutely,
1,000% into the brilliance of Dallas Austin. And I am sure that she's not going to like these photographs. And that's exactly what happened.
Wow.
And she felt like the photographs didn't resonate because I was shooting digital. But what really happened was the photographs didn't resonate because they were avant-garde. They were forward.
But did Dallas like them?
Dallas loved them.
Of course, because you were speaking his language.
Right. And so they, now, years later, there was one shot in particular that Dallas did where he was in the bathrobe. And years later, this same publicist, years later, I was photographing someone for her, and she wanted him to wear the bathrobe, this white bathrobe that I had, trying to recreate what I had done with Dallas.
Wow. Years later.
Because it took her years to catch up to
dragging
what I was doing.
Wow.
And I had to, and I had to give her grace because in her lane, she was brilliant and really lots of home runs, lots of successes.
Right.
There were some people that got on because of her efforts, and I understand it. What happens is when you have that kind of success, you're sure that all of your choices are on point. And I would say 95% of her choices are on point, but sometimes that 5% means something. And that 5% in this case was, get funky with Dallas. Don't fall,
But you still have to remain open. That's the beauty of life. You have to remain open because change is the only constant that we have.
Exactly.
So, you can't foreclose on what you think is right and always be right. That doesn't work for everybody.
Right.
And it's crazy. I don't understand people when they do that because what happens is you're not moving the needle forward for the client. And if the client loved them and it was a part of who they were and their identity, why wouldn't you entertain that?
Right.
And here it is, fast forward 10 years later, you're trying to recreate something that was already there.
Right.
Which is unbelievable. What are you ready to stop carrying that no longer belongs to the next version of Keith Major?
Wow.
Because we all have something we have to kind of let go of because that's the change.
I think the wild boy party life.
Okay, well, we still have a little bit of that in us.
I
came up in New York faster than I told you I was.
I have had a little bit of it still in me.
Love it.
And I had to come to terms with letting that go, and it's not hard. I know
what you mean. Some things
are almost natural, but there is that comes to mind.
That familiarity creeps up sometimes.
Yeah, because there's still some characteristics, to it.
Of course.
So there's that. There is one that I'm currently. Actually, it's 360 because I remember the younger me had a sort of like practical relationship with money.
Okay.
And then the very creative me that blew up, so to speak, had little respect for money.
Okay, because it's energy. It's fluid. Goes in one hand and out.
Well, and I saw it as fluid, but it was different. It was
you said
different
you saw fluidity, but you weren't sure.
It was a different kind of fluid. It was more like a disrespectful fluidity.
Okay.
So
It happens.
now I'm coming back into the bit more of the practicality of it.
Okay. Having a little more respect for it.
A little more respect, a little more restraint.
Is it the times that we're in?
A lot of it's the times,
Yes.
but it's not all the times. I've seen choices that I've made and how they've manifested, and I've realized that if I had remembered who I was as
Wow.
the more pragmatic person, I might have made different choices.
Okay.
You
So
know,
we're letting that part go. Or we're
yeah.
still in the process of it.
I think I'm beginning to. I'm in the process. On the
Okay.
good side of it, but I'm in the process.
And I mean, listen, we're all a process.
Mm-hmm.
It's always in the works.
Yep.
And so am I, doing the same thing, loving life. I have to say I'm in a place where I really love life. I really love the people that I'm surrounding myself with, because I did surround myself with some people that I should not have. And life is good. And I think, as you said earlier in the show, as you mature, you realize there is a place to like sit with yourself and understand who you are. And me personally, I had to go in.
Mm-hmm.
And that was that inner peace, because I'm like an Energizer bunny. I'm like, what's next? What are we doing? How
Mm-hmm.
we get there? Okay. I can make it happen. Don't let me know what it is. So I get that. And letting go sometimes is not the easiest thing to do, because it is a part of your identity,
Yeah.
And personally, I've had several identities, but I think this person, or who I am now, has been a definite culmination of all of them. It has come into one, and I absolutely love it. So,
yeah.
and it's funny because I'm doing a 360 back to all the people that were in my life that I believe were really genuine people and had my back, and would be like, open the door and say, oh yeah, I know who she is. We know who she is. She's going to show up. If she says she's going to be there, she's going to be there.
Yeah.
She's going to call, she's going to be there. This is who she is. This is her integrity. Trust me, hands down, will be there. My name is Jane Bond. All I have is my word. My bond is my word. Okay. So that's
right.
Look, that's my story, and I'm sticking to it.
Good.
Is there a part of you that has always been there, but has been waiting for more permission or more freedom, or more space?
There's always that part when you're an artist. That part lives in you, and it comes and goes and has ebbs and flows.
Right.
I don't feel like I've held back too much.
Okay.
But I still feel like there's another level. I think there's another level that I can get to that I haven't quite, manifested. But I feel like I'm right there.
Yeah. What
Right.
has your identity taught you? What has identity, period, taught you?
Identity.
A lot of people are speaking about.
I may have to think on that, because I don't think about it much, and so that's almost, I have to come back to you on that, because I don't think about identity much. I know we talked about it, and I know that there's a persona and a look and a thing, but I haven't been dwelling on it a whole lot.
And knowing who you are and what you want out of life. And
I mean,
when it comes to you, my perspective is that you know who you are. There's no negotiation when it comes to who you are.
Well, there is that.
Yeah.
There is that. And I think because at my core, I've always really felt like I knew who I was. That's probably why I don't think about identity.
Okay.
You know what I mean? Because it's just sort of like, I just, this is me. This is who I am.
I mean, you look exactly the same from when I met you.
That's what they say. I can see the differences, it's funny. I'll never forget.
We all can, of course.
But it's funny because I remember I had this girlfriend once, and she's like, you're really good looking. You don't even know it. I'm like, yeah, whatever. And she takes me to the mirror. She goes, look at yourself. And I'm like, okay. And I'll never forget. I go, oh, that guy? I've seen that guy my whole life, and she just starts cracking up,
Yeah.
Whatever, like, I don't know.
Life is
I do know that for 64, I look young to people for my age. I do know that.
Keith,
But
when
that's
I
a black
met you
thing.
30 years ago, you looked 17,
That's a
18.
black thing. None of us know, how you
It's
know.
that melon.
Yes,
It's
yes.
that melon, that melon.
Yeah, because I've known you for a long time, and I swear if you don't look, how can I describe it? It's
Everyone says when I smile, I look exactly the same. And all the time,
you
I always smile.
you definitely are given the Benjamin buttoning thing. I think you look softer now than you did when you were younger.
Yeah, people probably was really getting to me then.
Is that what it is?
Yeah, I mean, at that point,
Well,
you come.
maybe you're more relaxed. But
Yeah,
maybe what happens is when we're young, we're striving, and maybe you were, and I know you were very ambitious.
and you were on guard all the time. I was always
You
guarded. I
were
had
very
to check
ambitious.
what was happening, and I was, and
Yeah.
listen, I didn't work for anyone, so I had to always hold my own. And
Mm-hmm.
walking in those rooms, I mean, I remember being in the boardroom at CESD and all men were around me and they were speaking like this, like I wasn't even there. And we were just about to bring the brand new heavies back to New York. And
Mm-hmm.
no one lived in New York but me. Even the guy from CESD and
Mm-hmm.
CAA, they didn't live in the city. I was on the ground, boots on the ground 24 hours a day. So finally, and I was scared to death because I had just, you know, gotten the brand new heavies back together. And I
Mm-hmm.
was negotiating things with the UK manager. So it was a little scary for me. It was nobody knew, but I was that little person inside going, oh my God, what am I supposed to say? They're talking like I'm not even here. And finally,
Mm-hmm.
I just said, listen, let me ask you guys something. Which one of you live in New York City 24 hours a day? I said, because I'm telling you, we need to have the launch party at the Bowery Bar, at the Bowery, period. And they all looked at me and I said, that's what's going to be happening here. I have the talent. I have the front woman. She's here in New York City. This is where we're having this party.
Was
And
that the Bowery Ballroom thing?
that's the Bowery Ballroom thing.
I was there.
Yeah, I know you were there. That's what I'm telling you the story. It was the record label, the vinyl records from LA. It was
That
CES,
was the that
CAA.
was the best backstage experience I have ever had
Uh,
in my life.
we had a blast, Keith. Of course you were there. You and Sam Fine shot it.
And then there was an after party at the W, I think.
Was it the W or did we go to Bungalow? No, no. The after party was at the new place that was, we had to go down the basement,
Yes, go
go
down in the
through,
basement.
go
Like
through
around the corner from the W Hotel, but down in the
right.
basement.
Oh my God. I always ask about, I know the name, the guy that did the work at, what's the theater? Oh my God, Public Theater, Walt.
Mm-hmm.
He did it. It was right in a diner, but it was
Mm-hmm.
very cavernous. You went downstairs. I can't think of the name. Oh my God,
Oh,
embarrassing.
the place that had the diner upstairs and the not on
Yes,
La Cocina.
yes. That's it. La Esquina.
Yeah,
That's what the party was, the after
yeah,
party. And everybody was there. It was so amazing. That was an amazing, amazing show and party. All the tastemakers, everybody was there. Susan Blonde, the whole 9 yards. You couldn't tell me. I was like,
yeah,
myself on the back because that went off really beautifully. It took some time, but we got it
yeah.
together.
Because you did some international touring because you took Darion with you.
Yes, I did. We went to Japan. Oh my God. We
Mm-hmm.
went to Paris. Ooh, we went to England. Yeah. Yeah, we did it. We did that. That was a beautiful thing, bringing them back together. And the world was ready for them.
Yep.
I just don't think they were ready for the world. I mean, I'll tell you, America had missed them. You know, it was just like the funk was still there. Everybody wanted it.
Yeah,
Yeah. And we did a party over in Brooklyn, I remember, and that was awesome too. I mean, but it was just good. We toured with Macy. Macy, she was awesome.
I do remember Macy.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I'll never forget learning that she and her parents had the same voice.
Mm.
Like, what in the world? Her
Wow.
parents, when they said hello to me, they had the same voice. I was like, wow, so that you can inherit that, huh? So yeah, that was amazing though. That was an amazing, amazing time. And oh, I would love that. I mean, that is one career I absolutely love. And then came the crash, the market crashed. Everybody scrambled. Everybody got scared. I just hope it doesn't happen again. So, Keith, I want to ask you one closing question. This has been an amazing interview with you. I mean, conversation, listen.
Uh,
And the laughter, going down, memory lane and all of that, it's just been really beautiful. I think in the future, we'll still have some memories to make.
yes.
After unpacking your life, the work, the journey, the mastery, and the person underneath it all, who are you becoming now?
This I'm becoming. It's like I said before. It's I'm morphing into this older creative person who's like the godfather to young creatives.
Wow.
I get so much excitement out of teaching my class.
I love that.
And even yesterday I had a was it yesterday?
We're
Was it
never getting old. You can forget that.
I forgot what day it was. I think it was yesterday. But anyway, I had an interview with a guy that's doing a documentary around Carlton Jones, the stylist, and
Oh, yeah.
his sort of community of creative people.
Love it.
And he had a nephew there that was from Germany and was his first time in New York, and he was into filmmaking. And the guy that was interviewing me was the filmmaker said, my nephew doesn't want to go to college. Talk to him. And I said, well, you don't have to go to college.
Okay.
My daughter didn't go to college, whatever, but Dom says, but you're a filmmaker. And I said, there are things that you're not considering. I'm like, first of all, the cool thing about going to film school is they have all the equipment.
And the community.
You got your hands on all the equipment, and you can just make films and do things with all this equipment that you don't have to buy.
Exactly.
You don't have to pay the rent.
Right.
It's part of your tuition. And then he's in Germany and he goes, well, yeah, blah, blah, blah. The school's a little different in Germany, but there's this one film school, Heidelberg. I'm like, what? Heidelberg? And I'm like, that is the place. And I'm like,
wow.
Well, it's hard to get into. I'm like, well, try to get into it. I'm like, because I says the other thing that's exciting about it is you get to the thing about going to any art school is the discussions about art history and the foundation that you get is invaluable.
Wow.
And it's more fun than you think. And I'm like, film school in particular. I'm like, you're going to learn about all these filmmakers and the history of film. And that education is not only invaluable, but it's fun and it's fascinating.
Wow.
And you're going to love it. And I'm like, you don't want to miss out on that,
Of course.
I mean, if you come to the States, go to USC, you go to one, or on the West Coast. If you don't go there on in California, which I think is a great place to be for filmmaking, then go to NYU. But that experience is an amazing one. And I really got to him. Like because he heard it, he was hearing it from his uncle, but hearing it from me.
Absolutely.
It was a different sort of thing.
Listen,
and then
hearing
also,
it from the goat.
Right. Yeah. And hearing from me, and then the way I was, and it's funny because then, I was talking to him before that. Then we start shooting, we start taping, we start talking. And then one of the questions leads me into kind of like how we led here now. And I said, I said all the things.
Cool.
Right. And I said all the things about the school and everything. And then when we finished, and I turned to him and I go, that last part I added in for you. And so, to answer your question, that's where I'm really excited about being able to give back and being able to mentor.
And knowing, I mean, you're a wealth of information. You're like a walking textbook for them. And why wouldn't you be? 30 years in business.
And the thing, the great part is that I respect where they're coming from because they're always bringing new things and innovative things, and they're showing me. And that's the first thing that I learned when I started teaching is there's this 360 thing that happens where you're learning from them.
Yes, this is true.
Or they remind you of things that you'd long forgotten.
Absolutely.
Which I didn't know was a thing. I heard it once. I heard it, oddly enough, watching football. The commentator goes, Brett Favre remembers more. Brett Favre has forgotten more about football than this kid knows. And I went,
my God.
and I think to myself, oh yeah, that sounds cool, but
Well, it's like when your parents say, I wish I used to hear my mother and father go, I wish I knew what I knew now.
right.
Yeah.
Yeah.
As I got older, I went, damn, I wish I knew what I knew now. It's like so full circle for you. And you're thinking, okay, and I always try to think presently and think about, okay, don't make these same mistakes because we all have patterns. It's like what we were talking about, letting go of things and really knowing who you are and sitting in that. And I always think about that. If I knew what I knew then, now. No, you know now. So don't think about then. You know now, girl.
Yeah.
Get together and make sure you do what you're supposed to do. Because the next time you listen to that, then it's not going to work for you.
Yep.
Keith, this has been an amazing, amazing conversation. I know my audience is going to love this particular segment of the show. And I'm just so excited about putting it out there. Please tell people where they can find you.
I am very easy to find. My website is my name, keithmajor.com. You go there, you'll find the Instagram, you'll find the LinkedIn, you'll find the Facebook. You can find my address, unfortunately. My phone number and everything, so keithmajor.com is probably the best place to start, and you'll get all of it. And I am accessible.
Absolutely.
Have I done high-end work? Yes. Do I still do high-end work? Yes. However, I tell people that you just need to call.
That's right.
I have reasonable rates also for the everyday people, because at the end of the day, I want you to have good photographs, and I will make concessions and cut corners and do things for you. Well, not cut corners, but I can make this affordable for you.
Wonderful.
Especially in these times, because one of the new things that I'm adopting is we have to move differently, because, the construct of capitalism and the patriarchy is breaking. And I'm realizing that I have to move differently. And so there are times and spaces where I'm going to show up to help you.
Oh, I love it.
Not based on the old way of doing things where it's like, pay me, pay me, pay me, pay me. It's like, how can I help you?
You hear that, guys? He's being of service.
Exactly.
If you go to shoot with Mr. Major, Keith Major, trust me, you will never forget the experience, one, and you will have amazing, amazing photographs. I'm shooting with him very soon, and I can't wait. And I think I've sent him a couple people, and they can't believe that they're shooting with this icon. So guys, don't stop and go, well, wow, can I get in a, I don't know if he will shoot me. He will shoot you.
I will.
Give him a call. Keith, tell them where they can
email me.
Just you can give them a number. I don't care.
Major.com and in the contact, it does work. I will see it and respond.
Thank you so much, Keith. I have loved having you on the show.
Thank you for having me.
Absolutely. We can do this again. Don't you worry.
I appreciate it.
And guys, let me say this to you. And if today's conversation gave you the courage to ask yourself a different question, subscribe. Don't forget, subscribe to Unpack Your Life and review it. And share this episode with someone who's ready to stop surviving and start becoming, because that's what's important. And understand that change is our constant in this life. Everyone evolves. I'm Jane Bond. And until next time, don't just unpack your life, rebuild it right here on Unpack Your Life. Keith, I am so happy we had this time together.
Good. Thank you